You are now listening to Femme Regard Podcast with Tessa Markle
and Carolina Alvarez.
Femme.
Welcome back, Femme Fam. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. We have an awesome guest today, and I want to speak a little bit for a second about why this episode's extra special. If you guys are already patrons of our Patreon, you're going to be finding out very soon. Actually, you might find out before this episode airs. But either way, if you're not yet a patron, make sure you log on to patreon.com/femregard because you get special prizes for donating money to us. And the special prize with this episode is a video studio tour. So get excited, guys. If you like what you hear with this episode, join us over on Patreon and you get to see the space as well. But that being said, do you want to introduce our guest today?
Yes, I am so excited about our guest. I don't think she knows this, but I've been following her for a couple of years now. So I'm a total fangirl of hers. And it's Miss Emilynn Rose of LA Rose Studios, or is it Rose Studios LA, girl?
Rose Studios LA.
Studios LA. Like, so thank you. Hello. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me. What an intro. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for following my work.
Yeah, no, it stands out, and you've built such an amazing, unique, creative space here that I feel like really like fits the vibe. I don't know what other way to describe it. It's just, you get it. You get what like creatives want to see and go for it. And
I mean, even just your Instagram page alone is like inspo for us.
Yeah,
you know?
Oh, thank you. I really put so much effort into it, so I'm so happy to hear that. I mean, every Sunday I literally will like make sure my grid has like the color schemes and make sure the studio's grid is like colored, and it's a whole work. So I'm glad.
Oh no, and people don't like understand that there is like this whole process behind the scenes to how you put your stuff out there, especially as a business. It's one thing to have a personal page, but when you're setting up a business, you really have to be strategic on
Exactly.
And it's like, it's part of the world we live in. We have to work like that. And like, and you do a good job of communicating what it's all about. So
thank you. I'm so happy to hear that, because as an artist, like I struggle with that sometimes, where I'm like, does my work look great? Am I doing well? Am I progressing? And then when I look back at my work, I'm like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe I did that. But then like hopefully in time it gets better.
Yeah,
absolutely. So How did this all come to birth? Were you a photographer first? What was the process before you opened up the studio? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I've been doing photography for about 8 years now. It's actually been my only job, and I've actually never done anything else but photography. I've been doing it since I was 16 years old. And it's just been my passion. Like the first time I ever held a camera, I just knew it was meant for me. I knew that this was like the life I wanted to be in. Like the first photo set I've ever been on, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is my life. Like I want to be on set. I want to be around like the big lights and like the camera and the whole team. And then watching America's Next Top Model really inspired me. I was like, oh my God, like that looks like the life I want to live. Like I want to work with like models and celebrities and musicians. And then I was just doing, like freelance. I mean, I'm still doing freelance photography. And there was just a point in my career where I was like, okay, well, what's next for me? Like I love being a photographer, but I feel like I could do more. I love the business aspect of photography. Like I always tell a lot of my friends, like photography is an art, but it's also a business, like to succeed and not to be a struggling artist and, making real money, you got to make it a business. You got to make it a hustle.
Yeah.
And then so I was like, what's next for me? And I've always wanted to own my own studio, and I've always been inspired by so many big photo studios. And I was just like, well, let me just try it. Let me see. And then the opportunity came where someone was like, hey, I have this space. We're moving out of this space. Do you want to turn it into a studio? Mm-hmm. And I was just like, this opportunity came in my lap and I kind of just went for it. And at first it was supposed to be just like my own studio. I was going to like put it on Peerspace and, try to make money off of it. But then it did so well that I was like, well, why not open up multiple studios and I can use it, my clients can use it, and then we can rent it out. So it's just been working out so far. And I really love both aspects of like being a photographer and then owning a business. It's been amazing.
It's rewarding. It's hard work, but I think it's really rewarding when you can take ownership of it, right? And you built it. You built it up to your vision, and that's so
exactly.
Yes.
I always tell people it's like my baby. Like I had 2 babies, and one's grown enough to where like I have to like have another baby that like I need. you know, and so it's been good, especially last year. Last year was great with the studio. With COVID this year, I had to learn how to like pivot and like learn how to grow with the times. And so that was actually like a good, being able to get through COVID. I was like, okay, well, this is a good business that we can, keep going with.
I mean, to keep business open, A, and B, a pretty much brand new business, like through COVID is a feat on its own.
Yes. I mean, it was a lot of hard work, and I'm so thankful for my team. I always tell people like, at the end of it, like I can be a hard worker, but if you don't have a good team you can trust, then it's just, at the end of it, it's a lot of them. Like they worked really hard to keep the studio open and keep it, keep it within the health codes but keep it open at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been so tough. Again, in COVID, it's like filming, if you're on location anywhere, there's just so many things you have to do and it gets so expensive and it's so many more people on set when you're supposed to be having less people on set. It's just
yeah. I mean, that's like a huge thing. Like we were doing big productions here, and I mean, the space is around like around 2,000 square feet in both spaces. So it's like we had bigger production. Now we're only taking small production because of the health codes. And, we want to keep our staff safe, but at the same time, keep somewhat of business coming in.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what kind of makes Rose Studio, in your own words, Rose Studios, unique compared to other places that you could just rent out? And
because it's one thing for a photographer to have a studio, but this is like so much more than just,
and I've seen some filming opportunities because we are a film-based podcast heavy. So I know I'm curious to see what you can say, because I've seen some music video work too here.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Rose Studios that makes it different is the sets. Like we cater to making sure that each one of our studios has multiple stages so that you can utilize your time, utilize your booking, and be able to create as much content as you can in that one studio. And secondly, our staff. We have I am all about customer service. I'm not about owning a studio where you just let people in and you're like, hey, here you go. Like we make sure before COVID, we were making sure that client had everything they needed. We made sure to greet the client, made sure that they, before they even get through their booking, they have everything they need before our staff even leaves. And we make sure that, at the end of it, all our clients are just happy to come out of their booking. So for us, customer service is huge, and just making sure, everyone is taken care of on set.
That is amazing. Yeah, I
really
feel
important.
like that is, and that's unique. I feel like other spaces kind of high and by, and you're like, yeah, can I get a water?
No, I'm all about that. I mean, for me, I always just compare my studio and how I would like to be treated when I'm coming into a booking. I've gone through so many studios where I would come in and it was just first of all, it would be dirty. And I'm all about making sure the studios are clean and at least everything's put to where, we can the photographer can find it. Or if I have a question as a photographer and I'm coming into a studio and I can't find the staff to help me, that's always a problem,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And talk about, because again, for our patrons, they'll be able to see it visually, but talk about the vibe, because it is so cool. What inspired you? Highlight some of your favorite rooms here. Tell us about that a bit.
So I definitely love our Rose Loft. I mean, for me, I just love the natural lighting that comes in there. I love the shadows that comes in there. We have a palm tree room that can that can look like it's outdoors. So I love that. And I just love like the pink vibes in there. Mm-hmm. And then obviously I love Studio 54. It has like this retro theme. Yeah. We are hopefully opening up our other studio coming soon. And we used to have this studio called a Victory Garden where it was green, beige, lots of shadows, and like very more like neutral tones. And so like we closed it down because it was too small compared to our bigger studio. So now we're like hopefully opening it up in September, October, fingers crossed, or hopefully November. I mean, sometime even this year, like I would be ready to open up another one. So everyone loved that studio. And so I'm excited to reopen it because we were supposed to re-sign a lease before COVID. And luckily I didn't, because I was literally March 20th. And my landlord was like, hey, do you want this studio? Like, let's sign the lease. And I was just like, well, I'm hearing these things about like this COVID and I don't know. And then luckily, like I was supposed to sign it April 1st. And luckily I didn't. Thank goodness, because it was just going to be madness. And now it seems like the perfect time. And I'm ready to get the ball rolling with that. And hopefully we can reopen it.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Fingers crossed for you, girl. Cause that I'm so like blessings, right? You like, people have been put in that situation.
Counting all my blessings. Like every time I catch myself like being like, oh, life is hard. Like, I'm like, no, life is good right now. You are okay. There's other people, you know, that are struggling more than you. And, you know, you just have to keep your head high.
Totally. That's right. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the kinds of projects that you've had come through here.
I mean, I've gotten so many amazing projects here. I mean, like client-wise, like we've had like clients for the studio. We've had like Tyra Banks, we've had Teen Vogue, we've had Paper Magazine, we've had Gay Times. And we're just so about like diversity here. So it's like to have all those types of, you know, companies to come here, like I'm just so like, I love seeing all the work that comes here. I mean, we've had amazing music videos that's happened here. We've had Becky G. We've had we've had like some good people. I've had you know, like Nazanin come here, and she's one of my clients. We've worked with Savage Fenty here. There's been a lot of Savage Fenty shoots here, which I love.
I can see that.
Yeah. And then we've had Pretty Little Thing, Fashion Nova. Fashion Nova is one of our like regulars that come here a lot. And then we've had some good people, and we hope to keep having more amazing people come in.
That's really awesome.
So exciting. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I'm just excited to keep, like I said, I've been watching you for the past couple of years, and I'm so excited for you. Like you're gonna pop, you're gonna have more babies.
Let's do it. Thank you. I mean, like that's the goal. Like I really like, I see this like being so much bigger than what it is today. I mean, you know, we have multiple studios, but hopefully we can have like a big, huge warehouse one day. And it's just all about goal setting, you know, like, I mean, I started with just like nothing, and then, you know, created this like just by like opportunities. And, you know, when opportunities come, you just have to take it and see where it goes, and, you know, not give up on it.
Yeah.
Because there's times where I wanted to give up on it. I was like, should I just like not go through this? And, you know, but now I see it and I'm like, wow, like I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah. It's always scary, but I feel like that's how it always is in the end. Even if you end up like starting a business and it goes bankrupt or like whatever happens, going through it and learning everything through the experience is always worth it.
Because you don't know until you are trying it and giving it all.
Yeah.
You know, you won't know. And the worst thing that could come out of it is, okay, it failed, but you've gained experience. You've learned something, and you could always take it into your next thing. Like speak to maybe some of the struggles you had. You don't have to go into detail, but was there like definitely points where you're like, shit, like I don't know if I can keep this running?
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, like the first problem I went through was I actually opened this studio business with a different business partner than who I have today. And 3 months into like after build out of the first studio, and then after like we put everything together, after we signed documents, after we went to the bank and opened accounts, like after 3 months we were just butting heads, and I was just like, he doesn't understand my vision for the company. He doesn't understand like what clients mean to me. And he was a guy, so he was just, I felt like it was like, at first I didn't think he was like being weird and pervy, but like, I just don't like that vibe. I'm all about like feminine empowerment and just like motivating people. And I'm just like, if you see someone that you don't think is attractive, just don't say anything, you know? And then that was kind of like the red flag for me. And then so I brought up the situation, we were fighting, and I was just like, you know, I don't think that we have the same vision for the company. And especially if we're using my name on it, then I don't want certain types of things that, you know, in the studio. And then so he decided that he didn't want to do this anymore. And then I was just like, perfect. Okay. Like, I was like, perfect. Yeah. And I was like, okay, so how should we resolve it? At first it was like, so like, headbutting, you know? And then I was just like, I'll just buy you out. Like, what do you want? And then so we found an agreement, but then at the same time, like, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm just a freelance photographer. Like, I'm, you know, like, how am I going to find this money? Like, where, you know, how am I going to get it? And then luckily, you know, I feel like when you just put it out into the universe, like it comes to you somehow. And then so I got the money together, and then I bought him out. And then and then I have a business partner. Her name is Mandy. And we've been business partners for 2 years now. And it is amazing. Like, we know how to communicate. We have the same vision for the company. And she works so hard. Like, people think that I work so hard and, you know, like I'm always on the go. And I'm like, okay, like I need a person who's just like that. And Mandy's exactly like that. She believes in the company. And, you know, luckily that was like a point where I was like, okay, like I'm glad I did it. And I was really about to like, just be like, maybe I should just start this company later on when I have more money, you know? And then luckily I didn't, because at the same time, like everything that I'm learning through owning the studio is like, it's a learning lesson. So I'm only going to get better from here. But that was definitely one of them. And I was really ready. In the first beginning parts, I was like, oh, like this sounds like a lot already. Yeah. And then opening our third studio was really hard for me. I was going through like a breakup at the time. And, you know, it was like really hard, like being like a business entrepreneur, being a photographer, and then like also having a relationship that like supported that kind of lifestyle. And then so that was really hard on me. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I put so much money into this company and opening this other studio. Like, should I like, you know, should I like focus on having like a family? Should I focus, you know, especially having like those personal issues as a woman and being like, well, I do want to have a family, but then I'm also such a workaholic. Like, how do I balance that lifestyle? Yeah. And then so I'm still learning how to balance it, but that's another thing that I went through that I was like, I'm glad I overcame. And, you know, people love the studio and I'm really glad I opened it. And then COVID was a tough one. Like April, I think I had like a meltdown like every week. Especially like when the SBA loans were like on a halt, like it was like, oh, the government was like, here's like, we're giving you guys opportunities, but we're actually not focusing on small businesses. We're going to focus on big companies and help them survive. Where I'm like, I'm the small business. Like I didn't get my SBA loan until end of June, like early July. So I was freaking out. Yeah, right. And yeah, it was intense. It was like I was paying it. Like I didn't want to stop paying my employees. So I was like, we'll make sure to keep paying you guys. Like I figured out like ways to work around my landlords. And then I feel like I can say that we're getting by now and we're good. And like, you know, I'm thankful for everything. And, you know, now that episode is over, I'm like, okay, like how do we just like keep going from here and like expand, you know, but I was ready to look up stuff that's like how to deal with bankruptcies, you know, like I was like, how to bankrupt your company. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to do that. I've never dealt with something like that. So I was just like, I'm glad I didn't go through it. And I just kept pushing forward.
Yeah. That's, I think, really key. I think for maybe our listeners too, who have their own like film production studios and stuff to hear. I think it's important to know, like, this is a time we are all kind of going through it. And like, you know, some cases are more fortunate than others, but to keep that positive, like what's the next step? Like just always just to keep working through it.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's more of like not giving up, you know, like in situations where I feel like, you know, if the universe puts, you know, like a situation in front of you and it seems like it's over and the world is over, but your dream is way bigger than, you know, losing everything, then you just have to fight for it. Because in every instances where I always thought like, you know, all those instances where I was like, well, is my company gonna die? Is my photography even doing well? I've overcame it. You know, I've never felt like I couldn't do it. It's just a moment inside you that's always going to be like, well, like maybe you should just give up. You know, like it's always a voice in your head that's going to say that, and it's just up to you to be like, no, it's not. You're not going to give up. You can do this. Just take a breath. You know.
Not today,
so
Satan.
Not today. Exactly.
I hear that. I think even like on a performer scale, like, you know, you can wake up every day and be like, fuck, is my career like even where it's at? Like you gotta check yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's your inner conscious, and like trying to dispute some of that fear, that negativity, and you just gotta
Yeah, that artist struggle inside you when you're like your work is not good enough, that's like in its own hard, you know. So then on top of that, like owning a studio, having extra rent to pay for, having staff to provide for, like my staff depends on this job for their living, you know. And it's all these new things I'm trying to deal with, but it's like if you want to be playing with the big dogs, I feel like you got to learn how to like work within that, you know, work within that stress.
Totally.
Right. That's, I think, really key what you just said there. Like, and that's the next level up for anyone who's trying to really make a business and a career out of it, you know?
Like learning how to handle self-doubt and just like, you know, daily struggles is like something a leader really needs to, you know, work on, because even today, you know, I'm still learning how to be the best leader I can be, because it takes a village to be at the top. It takes a team and it takes a good leadership, because at the end of it, it's like people will come to you and people will ask you what, you know, what you want, what you need. And, you know, you have to be able to like look calm and ready to respond.
And like when everyone else is crying, even if you're like dying inside, you have to be like, nope, this is fine, guys. Not like in a fake way, but you kind of have to fake it for yourself to like, because
exactly
that's the extra like pressure you have. Like you have people that are really like, oh my God, Emilynn. And you're like, babe, you got this.
Exactly.
Figure it out. You got this. And then you're like, like, you know? So that's so hard. And so congrats for like being able to like fight through it. And it sounds like you have a team who's like in a healthy dynamic that like they don't overwhelm you either. It sounds like
yes.
Like
I mean, we've worked on it. Yes. Like, I mean, it's been an amazing journey, because I'm just like, I always tell my team, I'm like, look at where we were. Like, I mean, the studio's only been open for 2 years, you know? And so, I'm always like, look at where we've gotten. Like, it's, you know, it took me 8 years as a photographer to get where I'm at. So I'm like, for the studio to get to where it's at in 2 years, I'm like, wow, like, and minus COVID, like, I feel like we really did great last year, especially.
Yeah. Well, let our listeners know how they can follow your journey as a photographer, and then Rose Studios if they want to, you know, book to use the space, or even just to like check out their gram and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you guys want to follow me, check out my work as a photographer. It's at Emilynn Rose. It's EMILYNN ROSE. And in the studio, we'd love for you to come check it out. We also throw lots of events. So, post-COVID, we'll throw events again. We're starting to throw virtual events. So follow us at RoseStudiosLA.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm super excited to really get to explore this space. Again, listeners, if you aren't yet a patron and you want to see the tour of the studio, sign up. Ask us how.
Ask us how. Don't forget to rate, leave a comment. Let us know if you know anyone else that you would love to see on this platform. But again, we are so grateful to have you on the show, Emilynn, today, and excited for everyone to see your amazing work, because it's so cool.
Oh, thanks, guys. I'm so glad we did this. Thank you so much. I'm really excited for this podcast to come out. So thank you for having me.
Bye.
Yes. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. Mwah.
Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in next time for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals over tea.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. If you leave us a great comment, we might give you a shout out on the show. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.